The Catholic Church held absolute power over minds and bodies for over 1,000 years. Kings bowed, emperors knelt, common folk whispered prayers and kept their thoughts locked away, but some refused to bend. 7 thinkers who challenged the Church's grip on truth itself. They paid with fire, poison, exile, and blood. Yet their ideas survived every execution, every book burning, every attempt to erase them from history. If you value documented medieval and Renaissance history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from Vatican trial records and contemporary chronicles. Now back to the story. Number 1, Giordano Bruno, 1591-16, 100, Rome's Campo de' Fiori. The Dominican monk who said the universe had no center, no edge, infinite worlds spinning through endless space, each possibly holding life. Bruno studied at the University of Naples, memorized entire libraries, using his memory techniques, fled his Dominican order at 24 when superiors found Erasmus and Chrysostom in his cell, published On the Infinite Universe and Worlds in London, 1584, called Earth just another planet orbiting an ordinary star, said Jesus was a clever magician, not divine. Magic worked through natural forces, not supernatural intervention. The Roman Inquisition issued a warrant 1592. Bruno fled across Europe. Paris, London, Wittenberg, Prague, taught memory arts to King Henry III in Paris, debated Oxford professors on Copernican astronomy, published 24 books on cosmology, mathematics, and philosophy. Giovanni Mocenigo betrayed him in Venice, May 22, 1592, promised Bruno patronage, then delivered him to the Venetian Inquisition, extradited to Rome February 27, 1593. 8 years of interrogation in the Tower of Nona, 67 sessions recorded in the trial manuscripts. Cardinal Robert Bellarmine led the prosecution. 8 cardinals voted on each charge. They offered him life 23 times if he'd recant just 7 key propositions. Bruno studied their offers, found logical loopholes, rejected every compromise, spent final weeks writing philosophical notes on prison walls. Guards found geometric diagrams scratched into stone. February 17, 1600. They gagged him with an iron mask to prevent final speeches, drove a spike through his tongue, tied him to a wooden post in Campo de' Fiori. The crowd numbered over 3,000. Romans bought food from vendors, made it a festival. His ashes scattered to the wind within hours. But his books had already crossed every border in Europe. Johannes Kepler owned On the Infinite Universe, called it prophetic. Galileo studied his cosmology, though he never admitted it publicly. Gottfried Leibniz quoted his monadology in developing calculus. Isaac Newton built mathematical physics on Bruno's intuitions about infinite space and universal forces. Number 2, John Hus, 1409 to 1415, Constance. The Bohemian priest, who preached in Czech, not Latin, said the Pope could be wrong, that salvation came through faith, not church hierarchy. Hus served as rector of Prague University, 1409 to 1410. His followers called themselves Hussites, over 40,000 strong by 1410. He translated John Wycliffe's writings into Czech, distributed them through Bohemian parishes despite papal bans. King Wenceslaus IV protected him, until imperial pressure mounted. Preached at Bethlehem Chapel to crowds of 3,000 every Sunday. Attacked indulgences, papal corruption, and clerical wealth in vernacular sermons. Czech nobles funded the copying of his treatises. His On the Church denied papal supremacy over temporal rulers, wrote letters to common people explaining scripture in simple Czech. Bishops could not read his works. They knew only Latin. Holy Roman Emperor Sigismund promised him safe passage to the Council of Constance, signed document with imperial seal, October 18, 1414. Betrayed him the moment he arrived November 3rd. Claimed heretics deserved no protection under canon law. 3 trials over 18 months. The first session lasted 11 hours, November 28, 1414. Cardinal Pierre Dailly led the prosecution team. 412 clergy voted on his fate. Presented 39 articles of alleged heresy drawn from his writings. Offered translators, since many council members spoke no Czech. The council offered him life. For a simple statement, the Church cannot err in matters of faith. Hus refused every compromise. God is my witness that I have never taught that which false witnesses have testified against me. I would not, for a chapel full of gold, recede from the truth. July 6th, 1415. They chained him to a stake outside Constance's city walls, piled green wood around his feet to make the burning slow and painful. He sang hymns until smoke choked his voice. His ashes were thrown into the Rhine River to prevent relic veneration. Bohemian nobles received the news August 2nd, signed the Protest of Bohemian Nobles, September 2nd, 452 signatures demanding justice. 15 years of war followed. The Hussites defeated 5 imperial crusades using revolutionary military tactics. Janjiškas. Forces used war wagons, early firearms, and peasant infantry against heavy cavalry. Battle of Vitkov Hill, July 1420. 14,000 Hussites routed an army of 40,000 crusaders. The Hussite Wars killed over 300,000 people, shattered imperial power across Central Europe, bankrupted the Holy Roman Empire. The Protestant Reformation found its first martyr. Accused, tried, silenced, but never forgotten. Number 3. Meister Eckhart, 1326, Cologne and Avignon. The Dominican mystic who said, God dwells in every soul directly. No priest needed, no sacrament required. The divine spark burns in peasant and pope alike. Eckhart preached in Middle High German, not Latin. First theologian to build German philosophical vocabulary. Born around 1260 in Thuringia, joined Dominicans at 18. Studied at Paris under Albertus Magnus's successors. Prior of Dominican houses in Erfurt and Strasbourg. Provincial of Dominican Saxonia province, 1303 to 1311. Students packed his sermons in Cologne's Dominican convent. Over 300 manuscripts of his German works survive today. His writings spread through Rhineland. Convents like fire through dry wood. Beguine communities copied his treatises by hand, despite church suspicion. Dominican nuns in Strasbourg, Colmar, and Basel treasured his spiritual guidance, hid manuscripts in false-bottomed chests. His German sermons reached noble courts, merchant houses, and artisan workshops. Argued that Mary Magdalene represented the contemplative soul achieving union with God. Claimed every person could experience what Christ experienced. Archbishop Henry of Wernberg of Cologne accused him of heresy, 1326, listed 17 dangerous propositions from his Cologne sermons. His statement, God's existence is my existence, particularly enraged theologians. Pope John XXII summoned him to Avignon for full papal investigation. The Franciscan Nicholas of Strasbourg led the prosecution. 28 statements, deemed heretical by the Avignon Commission. The trial dragged through 1327 with testimony from dozens of witnesses. Eckhart submitted his defense in Latin. I may err, but I cannot be a heretic, because the first has to do with the mind and the second with the will. Distinguished between unintentional error and willful defiance. He died before the verdict, late 1327 or early 1328. The papal bull In Agro Dominico condemned his corpse anyway, March 27, 1329, listed 26 heretical articles from his teachings. Inquisitors burned his books in public squares across Germany, France, and the Low Countries. But the Rhineland mystics kept copying his sermons, hidden in convent walls behind false stones, sewn into clothing, smuggled in merchant packs to Switzerland and Austria. Johannes Tauler spread his teachings through Strasbourg. Heinrich Suso built mystical theology on his foundations. The Friends of God movement preserved his spiritual methods. Martin Luther discovered his German theology, 1516, called it the most important book after the Bible, and Augustine's Confessions, published it with his own preface. The German Reformation echoed his words about direct divine connection, bypassing clerical hierarchy entirely. Number 4, Marguerite Porete, 1310, Paris. The Beguine who wrote The Mirror of Simple Souls said the soul could become so united with God that it transcended church law entirely. Porete lived in Hainaut, modern Belgium, among communities of religious women who took no formal vows. Beguines supported themselves through textile work, served the poor, lived in spiritual fellowship without male oversight. Her book appeared around 1295, dialogue between love, reason, and the soul. Written in Old French, not Latin, so common people could read it. The annihilated soul needs no pope, no priest, no sacrament. Divine union makes moral law irrelevant. Her book spread through France and England in secret copies. Dozens of manuscripts reached noble courts, merchant houses, and women's communities. The Bishop of Cambrai, Gaius de Colmieu, burned the first edition publicly, 1306, ordered her to stop teaching, threatened excommunication. She ignored him completely, kept writing, kept preaching, sent copies to 3 theologians at Paris University, asked them to approve her orthodoxy. They refused to respond. Inquisitor William of Paris arrested her, 1308, 18 months in chains at the Châtelet prison on the Seine. The trial record lists 34 sessions of interrogation. They offered life for a simple oath to stop spreading her ideas. Silence meant survival. God needs nothing from creatures, she said. Creatures need nothing from God. May 31st, 1310. The flames at Place de Grève consumed her body before thousands of Parisians. Her book survived in hidden manuscripts. 4 copies reached England before 1320. English, mystics translated it, called it The Mirror of Simple Souls. It spread to Germany and Italy through Carthusian monks. Copies surfaced in Prague, Vienna, and Florence. The Inquisition burned it again in 1396, again in 1455. Each burning spread it further. Number 5, William of Ockham, 1324 to 1347, Avignon and Munich. The Franciscan who said papal power had limits, that emperors ruled by natural right, not church appointment. Born in Surrey, studied at Oxford under Duns Scotus' followers, taught logic and theology until 1324. His razor cut through centuries of theological confusion. The simplest explanation wins. No need to multiply entities beyond necessity. Pope John XXII summoned him to Avignon, 1324. 4 years of hearings dragged through canonical process, 51 propositions, under investigation by Cardinal Jacques, Fournier's commission. The charges: denying papal supremacy over temporal rulers, questioning church ownership of property, supporting Franciscan poverty against papal wealth. Ockham saw the writing on the wall, fled Avignon in the night, May 26, 1328. Holy Roman Emperor Louis IV gave him sanctuary in Munich. 3 other Franciscan leaders escaped with him: Michael of Cesena, Bonagracia of Bergamo, and Francis of Ascoli. The Pope excommunicated all 4, June 6, 1328, ordered all Ockham's writings destroyed wherever found, but students had already copied everything. Oxford kept teaching his nominalist logics, despite papal bans. Paris smuggled his political theory through underground networks. His dialogue on the power of the Pope and Emperor circulated in dozens of manuscripts. Universities in Prague, Vienna, and Erfurt built their curricula on his philosophical method. He died in Munich, April 9, 1347, still excommunicated, still writing, still dangerous. Luther studied Ockham's nominalism at Erfurt University. The scientific method grew directly from his razor. Medieval theology never recovered from his logical attacks. If you value documented medieval history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Number 6. Peter Abelard, 1140, Sens and Saint-Denis. The philosopher who said reason could test faith. That logic mattered more than authority. Born in Brittany, 1079, arrived in Paris as a young scholar, challenged his masters in public debate. Students flocked to hear him dissect arguments with surgical precision. His love affair with Heloise, his student and secret wife, scandalized noble society. Her uncle Fulbert had him castrated, 1118. Abelard fled to Saint-Denis Monastery, wrote Sic et non, yes and no, while recovering from his injuries, 158 contradictions in church fathers' writings. Augustine versus Jerome on free will. Ambrose versus Chrysostom on marriage. Gregory versus Innocent on baptism. If the saints disagree, Abelard argued, reason must decide between them. His ethics claimed sin lay in intention, not action. Revolutionary psychology that threatened confession's power. His method spread through every classroom. Students paid premium prices to study under him. When he taught at Sainte Geneviève, enrollment doubled. Noble families sent their sons across Europe to hear his lectures. Bernard of Clairvaux called him more dangerous than any Saracen army. His books fly across the sea, leap over the Alps, spread through France and England faster than his fame. The Council of Sens condemned 19 of his propositions, June 2nd, 1140. William of Saint-Thierry read the charges before 14 bishops and King Louis VII. They burned his books in Saint-Denis Cathedral Yard the same afternoon, forced him into perpetual monastery silence at Cluny. Abbot Peter the Venerable protected him until his death, April 21st, 1142. But his dialectical method had infected every university. Students smuggled copies of his logic, commentaries in monastery scriptoriums. Thomas Aquinas built his Summa Theologica on Abelardian foundations. The scholastic revolution began with his dangerous questions. Faith must submit to reason's judgment. Number 7. John Scotus Eriugena, 865 to 877, France and England. The Irish philosopher who translated Greek theology into Latin said, reason and revelation must agree perfectly, and when they conflict, reason wins. Born in Ireland around 810, when Vikings raided monasteries and scholars fled to continental Europe, Charles the Bald recruited him to Palace School at Laon, 845, the only Western scholar who could read Greek fluently, translated Dionysius the Areopagite's complete works, 858 to 860. His On the Division of Nature made God and universe one unified reality. 4 divisions. Nature that creates but is not created, nature that creates and is created, nature that is created but does not create, and nature that neither creates nor is created. All existence flows from God and returns to God. No hell, no eternal punishment. All souls achieve final unity with divine essence. Matter itself is crystallized divine thought. Evil has no substance, merely absence of good. His cosmology reached 13 monasteries by 870. Irish monks brought copies to Reichenau, St. Gall, and Reims. Competing theologians attacked him immediately. Florus of Lyons called him Scotus Perditus, the lost Irishman. Archbishop Hincmar of Reims accused him of pantheism and heresy. But royal protection kept him safe at Charles's court. He died around 877, possibly in England, teaching at Alfred the Great's invitation. 2 centuries passed. His ideas fermented underground. Pope Honorius III ordered every copy of On the Division of Nature burned, January 23rd, 1225. The University of Paris banned all study of his works, 1241. Too late. Irish monks had hidden manuscripts in Glendalough, Clonmacnoise, and Armagh. English Franciscans smuggled copies through Dover. German monasteries kept partial texts in library vaults. The Cathars quoted him in their cosmological debates. Amalric of Bena built heresies on his foundations. The Rhineland mystics studied his emanation theories. Renaissance Platonists revived his complete system. Giordano Bruno owned his works. His pantheistic vision survived 8 centuries of systematic suppression. Silenced, burned, forgotten by their enemies. But their ideas lived in every underground manuscript, every secret translation, every student who dared to think forbidden thoughts. When Copernicus placed the sun at the universe's center, 1543, he walked paths Bruno had cleared with his blood. When Luther challenged papal authority at Worms, 1521, he stood on Hus's shoulders. When Descartes declared, "I think, therefore I am," 1637, he wielded Occam's razor against religious dogma. 7 men who died for dangerous ideas. The church killed their bodies, banned their books, and cursed their names. Yet every execution made their ideas immortal. The pattern repeats across centuries. Suppress a text. Scribes copy it faster. Execute a heretic. Followers multiply like wildfire. Burn the books. Hidden libraries preserve them. The Inquisition created its own worst enemies through martyrdom. Every stake they lit became a beacon for rebels. Every trial record they kept became evidence against absolute power. They preserved what they meant to destroy. Underground networks carried forbidden knowledge across borders. Dominican friars smuggled Eckhart through Alpine passes. Franciscan students hid Occam in monastery cellars. Beguine communities copied Marguerite despite death threats. University masters taught Abelard's logic in coded language. Irish monks preserved Eriugena in illuminated manuscripts. Venetian merchants smuggled Bruno's cosmology to London printing presses. The printing press changed everything. Gutenberg's invention around 1450 made suppression impossible. 1 manuscript became 1,000 copies overnight. Erasmus published Abelard's complete works, 1516. Basel printers issued Occam's political treatises despite papal bans. Venice flooded Europe with Bruno's cosmological texts. Ideas that once traveled in single manuscripts now spread like plague across the continent. Each execution failed to kill what mattered most. The questions these men asked: does papal authority have limits? Can reason challenge revelation? Is the universe infinite? Do souls connect to God directly? Must faith submit to logic's judgment? Can emperors rule without church approval? These questions survived every bonfire, every condemnation, every attempt to silence them forever. But in 1633, when the Inquisition dragged Galileo to trial, he carried Bruno's vision of infinite worlds in his telescope observations. When Luther nailed his theses to Wittenberg's door, October 31st, 1517, he echoed Hus's call for vernacular scripture and church reform. When Descartes wrote Cogito ergo sum, he wielded Occam's razor to cut through medieval certainties. When Newton formulated universal gravitation in 1687, he built on Bruno's mathematical insights about infinite space. 7 men who died for dangerous ideas became the foundation of modern thought. The Vatican opened its secret archives in 1981. Scholars found Bruno's complete trial records preserved in perfect condition. 8 years of testimony, torture protocol signed by Cardinal Bellarmine, the final offer, life for silence. Bruno's last recorded words to his judges: "You are more afraid than I am." The fire that consumed his flesh at Campo de Fiori lit a torch that still burns. Every university, every laboratory, every space telescope bears witness to his victory. The church silenced 7 voices. 7 billion minds inherited their questions.